Yes, and he says, "Do you want to send me the questions you want me to ask?" No.
He thought you were Kamala Harris.
Don, I'll see ya.
Okay. Somebody asked me a question. You got to lean up on the mic when you answer. I would like to discuss a recent situation involving a customer. Now, just so you know, exactly like that. I'm sure we can hear what you're thinking. I've not read this message yet, so we're reading this together.
So say it again. I wasn't really
It might
listening.
get bad somewhere. I don't know. I would like to discuss a recent situation involving a customer who brought in a truck experiencing a multi-system failure, specifically related to the fuel system. During our intake and inspection process, we determined that we needed to replace the batteries and perform diagnostics, which should have been testing. I already told him that multiple times in the past month, which required approximately 5 hours of work. The customer approved the diagnostics, which should have been testing, resulting in a proposed repair cost of $18,000, which he ultimately declined. As a result, the customer now has a bill for $1,800, which includes the cost of the batteries and the diagnostic hours. In this scenario, would it be advisable to reduce the charge to a minimum amount to assist the customer, or should we proceed with billing him for the full $1,800? Your guidance on how to handle this matter would be greatly appreciated.
I'm not sure why I should answer the question, because if he's not listening to you, why is he going to listen to me?
It's a pretty damn valid point. What's your take?
What's my take? My take is, if the process was proper and communicated and authorized up front, you get paid for the whole damn thing.
Yep.
Because a couple of different things. If you discount it, it can be seen as
You didn't actually do it.
you either didn't actually do it, you didn't know what you were doing, or you're not sure of what your testing is.
Yep.
And it could also become a liability if something ever happened, right? What happened with that brake job? Remember that brake job that you did with the truck that went off the side of the mountain?
Yep. Almost killed the dude. Almost killed his cat who rides in a truck with cats. But and I think about that from time to time. That freaked me out.
Yeah, but if you had discounted the bill, what would have happened?
Yeah. If I discounted the bill, or if I hadn't written it down, if I hadn't had the pictures, if I hadn't documented that he declined finishing the repair.
That could have been seen. That discount could have been seen as we didn't do the job right.
Yeah. Yep.
And you don't want that to happen. If you did it, get paid for it.
Well, and you know, here's the thing is, if, like in that case with me, if he had passed away, right? If the driver of the truck had passed away and the insurance company came after me, right? So in other words, like I've even seen cases where life insurance companies are coming after people. And like, so the insurance company says, "Hey, we lost an insured because of you. We think this is your fault." If I had not charged them, right? How would they see that? How would they view that? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm with you. I think you charge them.
You charge them. And here's the thing. Let's say you have a technician and you're discounting the labor. What does that say to the tech?
It means your time's not worth anything.
You know, that I don't value what you do?
Yeah.
Why would I go out and work harder to get better at what I'm doing
Yeah.
if you keep giving it away?
Yeah.
We've got to learn to understand that a big part of what we do today is testing, and we've got to be able to do it in a profitable manner to make sure that our guys are taken care of. And guys, I'm from the Northeast. Guys is a non-gender specific term. So if there's any female techs listening, please forgive me.
It's better than what their owner. You kept going around telling everybody they were their owner.
Your owner. Yeah. You know, the shop owner is what we say now. We've corrected that. Don't listen to my words. Listen to what I'm saying. So, you know, it's one of those things where, you don't give it away.
Well, and you know, you bring up a good point. Testing is the majority of what we do now in a lot of cases. And so let's say that he had done this testing and he came up and he found a broken wire that was 50 cents to fix. Well, it took him the same amount of time to do the testing, right? And yeah, I mean, if he didn't take that much time to do the testing, I don't have a problem with him backing it down, right? I don't necessarily have
that's different. If I got an authorization up to a certain amount, and I end up charging less because we didn't have to do all the tests that we got authorization for, that's fine.
Yeah.
Right? And you know the guy with the broken wire? That's kind of the old story with the old time janitor that took care of this insurance company.
Yeah.
Right? And the building, and they had this old boiler in there, and it would have cost him like $23 million to replace it.
Yeah.
And it was very finicky. But he could keep it running. Well, after he retired, it stopped working.
Right.
Right? This is that old story where, he comes in, he feels the furnace around and grabs a hammer and hits it.
Right.
And it starts working. And they're like, oh my gosh, thanks so much. So, we'll pay anything. We'll pay anything. So he finishes it up and he sends them a bill for 10 grand.
Right.
Right? And the guy says, that the owner of the building says, I want you to itemize it. Hitting furnace, $5. Right? Knowing where to hit the furnace, $9,995. Stop giving away your knowledge. Stop giving away your expertise.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Hi, Fluffles. You're fine. Come on.
It is hard to walk anywhere, David, and not get stopped.
I know.
buddy.
David, what David loves about it?
I actively avoid these conversations with people, though. I don't.
David loves it when they just
don't,
stop and give him hugs. That's what he really goes for.
Everybody should hug David when they see him at a show.
Yeah.
At Apex, we want a line of people at the booth to give David a hug.
Hey,
And we will judge the hug based on length of eye roll.
Yeah. Or better yet, hey, we're gonna start David a kissing booth.
I'm very tonguey when I kiss. I'm like, oh, it's just nothing but tongue. Sloppy
And there it
tonguey.
went.
Right.
And we went there.
I guess I need to everybody knows Rick. I don't have to introduce Rick, do I? Do you want me to introduce Rick?
That's Rick White, 180 Biz.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Rick.
Mike, introduce yourself.
I'm Mike Himes from Brookville, Pennsylvania. I own a shop. And
For a long time?
29 years.
Holy
Wow, holy
that's
crap.
crazy.
I can see the pain in your eyes. 29 years. I can see it.
29 long
Should have
years.
seen him when I met him.
Oh, this is better.
Yeah, this is better.
No. Less pain. Slightly less pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm only 2 months in with Rick, and it's
Yeah.
less pain already. A little uncomfortable right now, but
It's a lot uncomfortable. He just doesn't want to say it. It's
Right?
a lot
it
uncomfortable.
is. Yeah.
It's man, when you first hire your
Remember,
coach.
dude, remember.
Yeah.
How much pain did you go through in
Oh,
the
it was
beginning?
awful. It was awful. And this jackass, he's like, I need to know what your destination is. I'd be like, Rick, here's my destination. He's like, Shh, that's not your destination. What are you talking about?
Right.
I'm telling you this is it. No,
you
this is
pushed
not it.
him harder than I think you would have pushed most people. Though.
I would bring in a room full of people that will disagree with that heartily.
Really?
Yes.
He pushed me really damn hard, though. Look, I'm just saying.
Are you pushing him that hard?
We're not having to push too hard yet. He's had a little bit of a agita on his pricing, and he's gone up some. He's not where he needs to be yet, but he's gone up some, and I'm really proud of him.
Why are we not where we need to be yet?
I don't know. I don't want to jump too much all at one time.
I know. Don't hurt him. Don't hurt him. He knows. Baby steps, baby. We'll get him.
I was telling somebody this the other day. It may have been my dad. So my dad has hired a business coach for my brother in the family business, and they're
Hitman. Anyway,
yeah, they're going through some things, and they suck. Right? Really suck. This is bad stuff. I mean, this is. One of them describes it as a little hiccup. The other one describes it as a felony. Long story short,
whoops.
yeah, I said to Dad the other day, I said, you know something? He said, what? I said, there's a lot of change that has to happen, and I am concerned about like the perspectives. And he said, I know. And he said, I know that what we've been doing up to this point hasn't been working. I said, right. And I said, I remember
Doing
this.
$2 million a year.
Huh?
They're doing $2 million a year.
And they probably should be doing 4.5.
Really?
Well, they might be doing 4.5.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Good point.
Let's not go there.
Yeah. And so,
Dad, I'm sorry.
I know, right? He's going to listen to this and get us all. And so I look at my dad and I said, hey, I remember this asshole one time. And I said, I was really upset. And I called him with tears streaming down my face about this shop, like, being the death of me. And I said, he said, what you've been doing is not working. Is it possible that maybe we should try something else? Because if what you're doing up to this point was going to work, don't you think it would have already worked? And maybe we could try my way.
He does sound like
Damn
a jerk.
it.
He sounds like a real jerk.
Like the logic in that is not exactly something that I like to admit. I mean,
I think for a lot of people, though, they can conceptualize different. Like, this is just what we do.
Well, and it's sometimes when we're making decisions, it's a spectrum. I either do this or I do this.
yeah.
And it's because we have such a limited focus,
Yeah.
right? A perspective.
Yeah.
Sometimes it helps to have somebody on the outside looking in, because then I'm not as associated to the problem.
Yeah.
And I see more solutions. I can be more creative with it, right?
Yeah.
And I have a quote. It's one of my favorite quotes: "Is you can't read the label when you're inside the jar."
Amen
Right?
to that.
And that's a good quote. And that goes for me too. I mean, I have people that are calling me out on my crap all the time because I have blind spots like everybody else does.
Sure.
Right?
Oh, hang on. Let me get my list.
So we'll trade lists. You ready?
I wasn't quite that ready.
I have more practice. But ultimately, it's just realizing that if you're not happy with where you're at, you got to at some point recognize that what you're doing has gotten you to this point. It's not going to get you any further.
Yeah.
Right? It's recognizing, being able to step back and say, okay, what can I do differently? How can I see it differently?
But I think what I keep seeing from people is they get into that spot and they think that's just how it has to be. But
That's
they
it.
will not break their mindset. They won't. They're afraid because anything is going to destroy it. If I change anything at all, it won't work. But it's not working now.
Right. And at some point, why wait until, I always tell people, can you call me when the lizard is this big?
Yeah.
Right? Instead of Godzilla.
Yeah.
Right? It's a lot easier to deal with the lizard when it's the size of a chameleon. I mean, a gecko or something like that, right? A salamander, instead of waiting until it's Godzilla tearing down Tokyo,
Right.
because that's a lot harder.
I couldn't imagine being in his shoes, though, where we're 29 years in, right? And we've got a lot of baggage. And so, like, a lot of the shop owners that I see, especially when it comes
Are you
to...
assuming he had baggage?
Everybody has baggage.
We all have baggage.
Do you have baggage?
Oh, yeah. I got lots of baggage.
Well, but, I mean...
Did you open the shop from scratch?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you a tech?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Why does this sound so...
Yeah, my
It's
story sounds like
it's everybody
everybody's. I
else's,
was
yeah.
a tech at a car dealership, and I had a terrible boss. He come in one morning and started yelling at me. He picked somebody new every day. To this day, I don't know what I was being yelled at for, but when he was done, I went and got my truck, put my toolbox in it, and I went home and never went back.
Yeah.
And I had a little garage at my house and was working at it in the evening, while I was working at the dealership. And here I am 29 years later. I got a big building now. And
Well, I mean, that's the story that we always hear, and that's the trajectory that everybody takes, right?
I mean, it's good that you got a big building. How many techs do you have?
3.
Do you have 3 techs?
How
You,
big?
you don't do any of the work yourself? Any
Not
of the
anymore.
repair?
No,
Yeah.
I have been recently. One of my techs had a hip replaced, so I'm short one right now. So when they get behind, I do have to go out and help a little bit. I think I turned 8 hours this week.
Yeah. How big is the build?
40 by 60.
That's a nice size build.
That's not bad. Yeah.
Well, so like, I guess what I'm saying though is that we have these experiences, like even though you were really cheap, right? Mm-hmm. And was he really cheap?
Was he overwhelmed with cars?
Yes.
Like piles and piles of cars because he was so
I'm
cheap?
Ask
still
him.
over- I'm
Ask
still
him. Let him
overwhelmed
answer
with
these
cars.
questions.
So
Right?
you were really cheap, and you're overwhelmed with cars. Yet I guarantee you still had people that complained about the price from time to time, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever have somebody that just like ripped you a new one over a price?
Yeah.
Okay. And so that baggage, right? Because, that didn't feel nice. So now the idea of raising the prices because I've been yelled at before. But when you're working for broke people that don't have any money,
Right.
But we think it's not that they don't have any money; they don't see the value in what you're doing.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just
Right?
saying, like,
They're
if
also
you're
covered in
attracted,
tats, and the tattoos of $2,500, and they spend the money on that.
well, I agree. I'm just
But
saying,
they
but
won't
with
put
their,
wheel bearings on their car.
But that's discretionary spending, right? Auto repair is seen as non-discretionary spending. They don't have a choice. They don't like
They
it.
don't
We
have
don't
a
like
choice.
it when we don't feel like we have,
Yeah.
some kind of agency or authority in it.
They could walk.
They can walk.
that's what David tells them.
You can walk, yeah.
I trust me. I had plenty of conversations, but ultimately, it's one of those things where you feel like you have to be liked
Yeah.
by everybody in order for you to be successful. But in
I remember that.
actuality,
Yeah.
that very need to be liked is what's putting you out of business,
Yeah.
right? It's putting people out of business because they're not standing up for themselves. And one of the things I say all the time is nobody is going to value what you do until you value what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And there are so many people that
100%
don't.
true.
I went through cognitive behavior therapy about this whole needing to be liked thing. I started a
It has
podcast with
not
David.
fixed. It is not fixed.
I started a podcast with
Whoever-
David, and
I hope you
nobody's
get a-
ever going to like me ever again.
I
So I
hope
don't
you
have
get
to
a
worry about
refund for whatever the hell you spent on that because it didn't fix it.
it. Yeah, it's called a podcast. I mean, they
Was
still
that
hate
the therapy or was
Yeah, that
actually
was the therapy.
That's
Yeah.
what the therapist told you to do, go start a podcast.
with David because he's the most hated automotive person in the world. I mean, I don't know. You've got up there with Scotty Kilmer these days.
Scotty Kilmer. Do you think we can get him on the podcast? We should try.
Compression unions and brake lines. And
I know, right? I mean, that's how David fixes brake lines.
Are you? What kind of area are you in? Are you in a super nice area, middle area? Like
it's a nice area, but it's a small town.
small town.
small town upper middle class?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you have a dealership in town?
Two.
Two dealerships. Yeah.
Yep.
What
And my prices are low, but I'm the most expensive independent garage in town.
No, the others are too cheap. You're
They're
not
way
the most
too cheap.
expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a dealership in town.
Two.
Okay.
Dealers, yeah.
So it needs to go off of what the dealership is charging, not necessarily what the other independent repair shops are going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they use a smarter. Yeah, they use a smarter tactic to calculate their numbers, right? Mine is substantially higher than everybody else in town.
Have you price shopped the dealer?
I know what the dealers charge. I know
No,
what their
no,
labor
that's
No,
what they
it's-
tell you.
Right.
Yeah, but you need to go in and get you need to go in and pay for the oil change and have them go through the car or one of your loaners or whatever, right? And have them. I need brakes and I need this and I need
matrix the labor.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
matrix the labor, so you can call and say, hey, what's your labor? It's 125 an hour. It's like, okay, great. But what they're not telling you is they're tripling the hours or they're tripling the
Yeah.
labor rate or whatever as it goes
As it
up.
goes up,
And so that front brake job that you're charging $350 for, thinking I'm the most expensive in town, nobody's going to pay more than $350 for a brake job. They're charging $700 for. You have no idea because you call, it's $125 an hour. It's like, okay, well, 1.5 or 1.6 for a front brake job plus the pads and the rotors that they're buying from the parts store and they're marking it up. Should be about $350 or whatever. No, it's $700. You have no idea. I'm telling you, like going in price shopping, you're going to see, whoa. Because what the other independents, like, let them do whatever the hell they're going to do.
Right.
But if that dealership can support that building and that network and all the employees and all that other stuff, trust me, they're charging a ton of money. And if they have customers, if they have people willing to pay. And if they have people willing to pay, you should have people willing to pay.
Absolutely.
The only thing that keeps a lot of shop owners from shifting their price up very quickly, where they're like overnight and they're like, boom, they just jump on the price, is their own perceived, like he's saying, their own perceived value.
It's the emotional
I
bank
don't,
account.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
feel like I'm worth $200 an hour. So you don't charge $200 an hour. And so you're like, well, I'm just going to add $5. Ain't no one going to notice $5 or 10 or 15 or 20. Nobody notices 20.
Yeah.
In your
it's
mind,
pretty
you're
funny. You
like-
could go throw 20 on it right now and nobody would ever
Nobody's
say a
going to
word.
bat an eye at it. Nobody's got
I walked in and raised my labor 30% in one day.
Right. Nobody even noticed.
I did do that this spring. Like after I started listening to you guys,
Yeah.
I went in one morning and just raised my labor rate $10.
Yeah.
And I thought I'm going to give this a try. And
Nobody said anything.
Nobody said a word.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my average repair order, my average hours per repair order are low. I'm learning from Rick. I was at 1.5.
Holy cow.
moly.
So really, I $15 a repair order. Yeah, that wasn't very much. But I just too busy with too many cars to think of this stuff. You know, like my thought is I just got to get all these cars done. You know, and
But the problem is that you can fix cars for 100 hours a week and not make any money.
More cars does not equal more money, right? That's one of our core tenets, right? And tell them about the week you had.
Yeah. Another thing I wasn't doing inspections.
Oh,
listen to you guys say about it and stuff, but we just had, well, right now I have 2 techs, and I was scheduling, I had 12 cars a day.
Holy
for 2
cow.
techs, you know, and
Holy cow.
yeah, so I mean, we're just fixing broken cars, and Rick's wife and Eric Bach told me about his parking lot scheduling method. So one Monday morning I went in, and I was scheduling 6 cars a day, so 3 per tech.
Yeah.
And we started doing the DVI, or no, I'm not using DVIs, I'm using paper.
Yeah.
But that week, I had a week that I've not had months that I sold that much.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
So,
well, you know, we were just having a talk the other day with somebody. Maybe it was yesterday that we were talking about the digital vehicle evaluations, or at least checking the car. And I think it was Braxton, wasn't it? Braxton was in here and he was sharing his perspective. And Braxton said, you know, until I went to Lucas's shop, I never realized that that's how other shops did business. And Braxton said, so I had the Subaru, and he said it went to the shop and it needed this. And then it went, 2 weeks later, it went back to the shop, it needed this. And then 2 weeks later, it went back to the shop, it needed this. He said each time they just they never called me to tell me the car was done. I had to call and ask, is the car done? Mm-hmm. And he said they never gave me an estimate to fix anything. He said I just showed up, dropped my car off, and they said, yeah, we'll take care of it. So I keep getting my car back. And he said the axle was the last straw. It's like, my car's been in here 3 times. And I end up having to get towed in. And they could have seen the problem, evidently.
They weren't looking.
Right. They kept fixing the problem.
go
He
with
ends up
blinders.
getting rid of the car because in
Because
his
they didn't-
mind, he's getting nickeled and dimed with this car that just keeps breaking down. When in reality, had they just done a thorough DVI, all of this could have been identified.
He would have dropped $6,000 or $7,000, fixed the car, and it would have been over.
So here's a quick story, right? I got a 2009 Dodge pickup.
Yeah.
Right? My wife's like, you need a new truck. And I'm like, why? She goes, yours is old. I said, it's paid for.
Yeah.
Right? I like that.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure.
She says, you got a seat that's ripped. I said, we're going to get that fixed. And she says, you got crank windows. And I said, woman, that's the only exercise I get right now. Don't take my exercise away from me, right? And so I drove it 2 hours over to Luke Salmon's shop.
Yeah.
Right? Over in Goochland, Virginia. Hilltop Diesel and Auto. And I'm
awesome.
writing Lucas a check for $5,000.
Yeah.
Because this truck needed some work. I'm not ready to get rid of it, and it's worth the money.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to slow down. I mean, why work so hard with so many people doing a crappy job? And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but you're really not taking care of the client. You're really not taking care of the car.
You're not doing what's best for them.
And here's the situation, too. There was a situation about 2 years ago or 3 years ago in Connecticut where a car came into a shop for a tire repair. It had a leak.
Yep.
They brought it in. They did the tire.
Yep.
Put it outside. 20 minutes later, a brake line failed, and that shop got sued, and they lost for $750,000.
Yeah.
And they went to the judge, and their only defense was, we did what they asked us to do. And the judge said straight up, you're responsible to make sure these people are safe.
Right. Exactly. You're the professional.
Exactly. Now, what they decide to do with that information, that's on them,
Yeah.
right?
Well, we saw so many shops, and David and I were talking about this the other day, especially in the groups. We keep seeing these shops that go in and they delete the recommendations. So their close rate goes up. And I'm like, dude, that is your only legal defense if something happens.
That's so stupid.
Right? Like, why would you delete it? And they're like, well, because, they're bonusing advisors on close ratios. And I'm like, dude, if you're going to do that, then you probably shouldn't set it up to where they can delete their own recommendations.
Their own recommendations, right? Lock that sucker up.
What in the world? But I mean, seriously, think about that. There's shop owners deleting their recommendations so their approvals look better. I mean, who are they trying to impress?
Yeah, but come on. How often do we all do that with one number or another?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's like, hey, I'm not going to step on the scale quite as hard. Or, you know what I'm saying? We all want that number. Or we want to be able to justify why we didn't get the number.
Yeah.
It's easier
Yeah. I have
achieve what we think we want by fudging the number versus
doing the work. I have found myself to at times have unhealthy relationships with the numbers at the shop. In other words, like I really want to hit that number.
And that's something we work really hard with shop owners with.
Yeah.
Like I talk to shop owners all the time about the fact, and even more so than when you and I were talking,
Yeah.
the numbers are a ruler and they're there for us to judge our progress.
Yeah.
They are not there for us to judge who we are or how we do things.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
It's just a ruler. It's to look at, okay, I'm exerting this effort, I'm getting this result.
Right.
I can do better. Now let me do better. Okay, now I can look at the ruler again.
Yeah.
But that ruler isn't meant to define who we are or how we feel about ourselves.
Right.
Right? Failure, success, or anything like that. It's simply a way for us to measure our progress on the effort that we're looking at. Because most of the time, what we're looking at is
Assuming you're doing the right things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Legal, moral, ethical, the whole nine
Well,
yards,
I'm
right?
saying more like you know that if I do these 7 steps,
that I should
be
this
I
based
should
on
be
my
getting those results because you could be doing the wrong things and you're like, well, I'm not getting the results. I'm going to try harder at the wrong things.
But how many times do we do that? We just push harder on something, and we think if we do it harder, it's going to get better, and it doesn't.
0.5 hours per RO would tell you like you're working really hard for not the results you want.
Yeah, it's tough, man. That's a hard number to go, right? But if you can bring that car count down and you can bring the hours up, man, that's a sweet spot to be in, right?
Yeah, especially with the volume that it sounds like he has.
That allows him to either add more people or start to spread out the schedule a little bit, or start to look at who I'm working with and do I really want to work with this person?
Yeah.
Right? Start to work with people that value what I do versus give me a hard time every time I talk to them.
Yeah.
And I can also step back and look at the work I'm doing. And maybe some of the work I'm doing isn't profitable, but I always feel like I have to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't. Maybe I should start getting more specialized and or recognizing what my wheelhouse is and do more of that profitable work instead of getting stuck into work that doesn't make sense.
So let me ask you this. You started working with him. What were because I know your process. And what were the things that you really saw right away? Because, I mean, I know how you do things. You sit down and you say, all right, we've got a plan. And I see where we're at. We've got a plan for how we fix this. And you analyze and you understand what their situation is. What did you see when you first started working with him and you said, aha, here's what gets the asterisk. Here's what gets the red highlighter. Here's what gets the yellow highlighter.
Can I ask you a question? Mm-hmm. What if we asked Mike what his take on that process was?
Yeah.
And then I will tell you what mine is.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Now you're on the spot.
So what Rick? What Rick?
What did he tell you? Like first, hey, we got to tackle this.
My first, my 90-day push, he calls it. He wants me to get my average hours per repair order up to 2.
But did we start at the 90-day?
No, we started right at the beginning. To get them up to 2, we implemented his parts matrix.
Yeah.
And so far, that's about it. The rest of it's all the uncomfortable, like I'm trying to figure out what my value is.
Right.
And that
I'll pray for you, man. I don't even know what to tell you. I mean, I do you know how many goal sheets I wrote out and I sent to him and he's like, this is shit. I don't like this.
Yeah.
And sends it back.
I'm not sure it was like that.
It's the kind of stuff like
this is, what Rick said was, hey, Lucas, I think you can do better. And what Lucas heard was, So from my perspective, the first thing is always what's the destination first, right? Because we got to have a focus.
Oh, that's life-changing.
Right?
That is life-changing.
And we did talk about that. We talked about your focus with your wife and your daughter, right? And those things and what you wanted. Then we start to break it down into goals and then what are we going to do for those goals, right? So right away it was, okay, where's the destination, right? And then we start talking about value because we're going to need to increase prices. We can see there's no profit model in place. So we need to increase the prices so that he can start to make the money that he should.
Yeah.
Out of the whole, everybody in the shop, Mike, who's the least expensive person in that shop right now? Who gets paid the least?
Probably me.
Right.
And that's and Lucas just so I don't know if you saw Lucas's eyes, but he knows what you're talking
absolutely.
about. Right?
Absolutely.
There's so many shop owners
it's
like
really,
that.
It's not me, but there's two techs, they make the same amount of money. They're the lowest paid, and then like I'd call him my lead tech. He probably makes the most money in my shop. I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're the one taking all the risk. And you're the one taking all the liability.
And if we did it by
names on the
and if we did it by the hour, if we figured out what he was getting, who was getting paid what by the hour,
Yeah.
that would be an entirely different discussion,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Well-
I mean, I wasn't at the point where I was going to close or anything like that. But
Yeah.
You're just treading water.
I just had a job. Like I just had a low paying job. I could have went somewhere else and got a job doing what I do at my shop and made more money.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
And Rick said about my destination, like kind of the what pushed me to realize I got to do better. I have a 14-year-old daughter.
Mm-hmm.
She's diabetic. She was diagnosed with diabetes when she was 8 years old.
Yeah.
And then a year later, she was diagnosed with celiac disease. She's
Yeah.
can't eat gluten. And last summer, we noticed that she was clumsy. Like she was 14 at that point, and she's wore glasses since she was little. So we just thought she needed glasses, new glasses. And my wife took her to the eye doctor, and we ended up at Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh that night. She doesn't have any peripheral vision. That's why she was clumsy. She can't see to the side or up or down. And they didn't know why. And turns out she has, it's retinitis pigmentosa. She's going blind.
Oh my gosh.
She right now can only see like just a little spot in front of her. She's 5 degrees.
Man.
And and so we know that down the road, like when she goes to college and stuff, like she's legally blind now. She'll never be able to drive or anything. So, my goal is for my wife to be able to retire from her job when my daughter graduates high school, so that she can be her ride to where
take care of her. Sure.
Right. So that's kind of like that's when I realized like I gotta get my shit together.
Yeah. I've had some epiphanies like that. Right. And that's what brought me to this show the very first time, is because I mean, like, I don't mean this in an arrogant or like a spoiled rotten way. I am spoiled rotten. My parents took really good care of me, but like I could have lived off them for my entire life, right, and been okay, and they would have let that happen. But when I had a little girl in 2011, by 2016, I said, "This isn't working." Right, like I can't do this. I have to be more. It's about her. It's about taking care of her. It's about being a dad, somebody she can look up to. It's about more than that, right? And so my whole thing moving forward was, how do I fix this? What step do I take? Now, I'm going to tell you something. My destination has changed very much. Like when I first started working with Rick, there was never any, like I couldn't even see a world where I could consider retirement, where I didn't work in the shop every day. Like that didn't even seem like a possibility. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it just didn't seem like that was ever going to be a thing. And so now here I am, all these years later, saying, okay, well, we're hiring an ops manager, and that ops manager is going to be responsible for my job. So what is my new role in the shop? And what does that ops manager give me as far as freedom? Like what does this do for my life, and what do I want it to do for my life? And what are my roles and responsibilities in the shop now? And oh, by the way, here I am, I'm getting ready to be 40. Let's say in 20 years I do want to retire. What does that trajectory look like? What steps do I need to take right now to be able to do that? Well, the problem is when I met Rick, I was in the fire, right? Like there was no, like I was just trying to keep the effing place from burning down every day. I was trying to solve these like huge monumental things that felt like really big, and he laughs at me because they were stupid and tiny and they didn't matter at all in the first place. But whatever.
No, I just want to say a tech name, but I won't.
I know, right? He's dead.
No,
He's dead.
no way.
Yep, he's dead. Yep.
You killed him?
That's what I said. That's the first thing I said. He offed himself when you fired him, you dick.
Blood clot in the lungs.
No shit.
She died.
Sorry.
She died. She died first. He went to her house. He went to her house and was saying he was going to get his stuff back. 2 days later, her house burns to the ground with her in it. And then the girl that he married or whatever, she ends up in prison for all these meth charges, all this stuff. And then he said he went back to live with his parents. They said one morning they went up to check on him, found him dead. Said blood clots in the lungs. Wow. Just like that.
You know, one of the things I just want to I remember vividly was when we were talking, Lucas at one point said, my wife and I really want to have another child,
Yeah.
but we can't afford one.
Yeah. Yep. That was off the table.
And I can't tell you, I still have the picture
Of him.
me
You
holding the
him.
little guy. And
Yeah.
I was the only outsider
Yeah. That ever held him.
that was
Yeah.
ever allowed to hold him.
And now there's no holding him because he's 1,000,000 miles an hour in every direction.
Oh, you know how your mom said, I hope you have one just like you someday?
I'm telling you
Oh,
what.
baby.
I'm telling you what. You know, David got to hear him last night. We were on the way back from
Little
dinner.
chatterbox.
And I'm like, at first you would
they're
think
so
he
cute
has a
at 5
speech
years old.
impediment or something because he thinks so fast and he thinks so fast
Yeah.
and he moves and he talks and he goes that he doesn't even like finish processing a thought. He has to stop and think and look at something else and think about this, do this and do this. And
I remember my daughter having that that baby talk, the can't pronounce the words quite. Oh, that is so cute. I remember that. I miss it so much.
You know what's funny, David? You know, somebody asked me recently, they said, you got 7 kids. What was the best part of the kids? I said, I was watching them grow up. And they said, what was the hardest part of being a parent?
watching
And it was
them
watching them grow up. Yeah. Yeah.
It is. It's fun and exciting when they get to the next age and you start to see new stuff. Man, do you miss the old?
You really
miss them
do.
at 3. You miss them
Yeah.
at 4.
Yeah.
You miss them at 5. You miss
But
little
it's
babies.
fun, like,
and they're squishy and they're so cute.
My grandson Brandon's got a truck, a Nissan Titan that he bought.
Oh, wow.
Him and his,
I remember when he was like nowhere near.
Oh, I know. So he got an estimate on stuff that it needs to get fixed up. I was like, but I said, if you want, I said, we'll get the parts and we'll do it together.
Yeah.
So I've got wheel bearing and axle and
Gonna get dirty again?
I'm going to get some dirty or I'm going to
that's-
laugh at him getting dirty, one or the other.
That's it. That's it.
But I'm looking forward to it. Like
Yeah.
it's going to be a bonding time, for myself and my grandson. And
That's awesome.
cool.
Did I ever tell you the story about how we decided that it was time to have another one? Have I ever told you that? So remember in my office in the old shop?
Yep.
How there was that little like cubby hole back behind it?
Gemma used to hide in the back
Yep.
underneath
and,
there.
And we had the gate. There was a baby gate. And one day Alex walks out and she snaps the baby gate shut because the dogs were in there. And I'm sitting at my desk and Jimmy's underneath her little cubby. And she comes out and she comes up beside me and she puts one hand on the table and she puts one hand on me and she's patting me on the shoulder like this and she's tapping her hand on the table. She's 5 at the time, 4 or 5. And she said, Dad, me and you need to have a talk. I'm like, oh, okay. This is odd.
Now
This
you
is-
realize when a woman says we need to have a talk, that means shut up and listen, right?
Yeah, exactly. I learned. And it was odd because she had never said anything like that before. She said, I want a sibling. And Mom has told me that if I want a sibling, you need to participate. And I ran out of that room. I said, what in the hell did you tell her?
I would have been going, yes, let's go.
Right? Sign me up.
Done and done.
Woo. And so
I'm not going to tell her I got a vasectomy 6 months ago. Let's go.
exactly. None of her business. None of her business. And so there he comes 2 years later. Oh my Lord, God help me. He is.
Man, I loved your daughter too. Man, we had some fun with her.
Oh, I know. She's
That didn't sound right, but I meant it in a good way.
she's a bird person. And so she can tell you anything about any kind of birds you could ever want to know.
Can I show you after we're done, I'll show you an app.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
It's all about birds.
Oh, she would love that. And so I'll send it to her. But now, like him, he's a car guy, right? Any machine, anything that runs. So every night when we go for our walks, he says, I want to stop at the shop. Okay. And so we go in the shop and he says, tell me what's wrong with that car. Tell me what's wrong with that car. Tell me what's wrong with that car.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, aha. I figured out my retirement.
I was thinking exit strategy right there, buddy.
I'm out of here. Is 10 old
You
enough
tell
to
him
run
to
a
keep
shop?
that energy. And you're like, I'm going to tell you, but you keep that energy for the next 20 years.
You're going to need it. Right?
So what your goal is to lose half your customers.
Yeah.
Just gone.
Right.
This seems a
Firearm.
little weird to say, doesn't it?
Yeah.
does, yeah,
Did you
'cause-
just hear him suck up some of the seat cushion right there? Yeah. What half?
Yeah, you really do.
I
Like
know. Some
half of them
have
need to
been
go.
with me 29 years. It's
Well, they're
You know,
they're
they're-
going
they're-
to self-select.
right.
Don't.
It's not anything you have to do.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything.
Right.
All
And
you're going to do is shift your pricing and value proposition.
Yeah.
And they're either going to choose to participate or not.
And some of them won't participate, go somewhere else and go, wasn't that bad over
That wasn't
there.
that bad over there. Yeah.
I think I'm going to go back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, I'm telling you something. Those that left, like I have recently had some of them come back,
Have you?
and I have realized that I don't want them back. I would
Yeah.
much rather them go
That
somewhere
happens.
else.
That happens. Right?
Yeah.
But that's part of qualifying.
Yeah.
I
It
just
is.
don't think we're going to be able to make you happy.
Yeah, exactly.
That was
And
that
I-
was a difficult realization because I'm like, I'm going to put out a great product. I'm going to do things properly. Customers are going to love me. And
Everybody's
when
going to want it.
Yeah, everybody's going to want it. And you realize that these people are vultures. They are prying
Yeah.
on the inexperienced shop owner or the undervalued shop owner. They're looking for shops that are willing to do it at this price. They know
Right.
that are willing to throw in the head gasket sealant because like I can't afford a head gasket job.
Yeah,
Can you
now-
just put some of this in there?
Now
I
my
saw it
heater's
on
not
the-
working. What the hell's wrong?
I saw it on the internet. Can you just try it? Because you got the flushing equipment and all that. So can you just try it for me, please? Or yeah, can you use this part for me this one time? And they always have a story.
Yeah.
And I go back through my old customer list, and I see those names, and I've got a story for every single one of them. And I took the brunt
Yep.
of every single one of those jobs. Got screwed for $8,000, got screwed for $3,000, got screwed for $500, got screwed for $1,100, and just you go down that list. And I mean, these people were just taking advantage of me.
Right.
And the minute that I raised my prices, poof, gone.
Right.
Never saw them again.
That's-
Because all of a sudden
And the
you're like,
stress just went.
well, it creates other stress, but the stress, that type of stress is gone. The guy that screwed me installed an engine for him, and I catalytic converters, and we end up putting all these parts on this car, and he comes in and he's like, I only have $150, but I'm gonna come. I'll be here every Friday to pay you every time I get weak. And I let that car go.
Right.
And he never
You
paid me
only
again.
have to do that
I got
so many times.
$150, and I was banking on that. That's going to pay my rent this month, and I'm going to catch up on the electricity bill, and this is gonna end up taking care of me.
And
that guy.
that's why we don't cuff work.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Cuff work. What does that mean?
Allow people to charge work with us.
Oh no.
Put it on the cuff.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah. I've been lucky there. I've never been burned actually. I've had one, 29 years.
I just need to point out that the reason that you've not been burnt yet is because you weren't charging enough for them to even need to worry about
Yeah.
burning you.
did have one that I had to go to the magistrate and they had to send a sheriff out to get my money, but I did get it.
But how much time did it take you to do that?
Yeah, it took a lot of time and
Frustration
frustration
and feelings of being
and then I'm
violated.
the type, like if you owe me $100, I'll spend $10,000 to make you pay me that $100.
I was the same way. I was the same way. But here's the thing: it's one of those. I had this one guy. He comes in, had an $800 or $900 bill, and gives me a credit card and it gets declined. Can you try it again? Sure. Try it again. Same story. Here's another card. That gets declined. Gives me a third card. It gets declined. Then he writes me a check, and I use Celiac, which I highly recommend using some kind of check guarantee service. I run their...
Or just don't take them.
It runs about the same as the credit cards, and it's easy for them, and I get my money in 2 days and didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I put the check in the machine. I swear to God, that machine started smoking. So then he says, can I cuff it with you? And I'm thinking, there are just 4 people with a lot bigger pockets than I got that just went, oh, hell no. So I said, what are you going to do? He said, I'll give you $50 a week on it. I said, fantastic. He gave me the $50. So I marked it on the bill, $50. I said, okay, great. And I put his bill back in the Lazy Susan that we had. And then I grabbed his keys and I'm walking away with his keys. And he goes, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm putting your keys away. And he goes, well, what do you mean? I said, well, you're going to pay the bill. And he goes, yeah, I'm going to give you the $50 every week. I said, great. He said, well, aren't you going to give me a car? I said, no, sir. He goes, this isn't a payment plan? I went, no, it's layaway. You don't get it until it's paid for.
Now, look, I'm going to tell you something that he laughed at me for. And that is that initially, when you start all this, right, that you're going to raise your prices and you are not necessarily going to know how to convey that value to your clients right away.
Right, that's what I'm struggling with right now.
And you may find yourself in a situation, especially like no client supplied parts. Or maybe you're not breaking out the estimates and giving them each little detail and giving them labor rates and all those things. And what I promise you is that you'll call Rick one day and he'll laugh at you.
Because I laugh with you. I laugh with you.
Because he realizes that like you've experienced what it's like to not be able to convey that value to the consumer and be able to have that conversation. He's giving you the tools and the knowledge that you need right now to save your business. Right? Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, my business didn't need to be saved. It was like it was going to make it. Yeah, that's where you were is where I was, and that's not making it, okay? That's like barely treading water, right? Because at the end of the day, if you had paid yourself what you should have paid yourself and you paid your team what you should have paid them, you wouldn't have had any money. You'd have been out, right? Mm-hmm. That would have been it. And so what I found is that he was leading me in such a situation or such a direction that I had to feel a little bit of pain. So I was willing to learn new skills and new traits, right? Mm-hmm. So you're going to find yourself as you say things and you're going to say something to a client and it is not going to feel nice when they blow up on you or they say this thing. But it is absolutely required that you go through that because then you're willing to listen to him or somebody else to say, okay, that didn't work. What do I need to do different, right? And unless you go through that pain point, you won't ever know that you need that knowledge, that you need that experience to take it and go a different direction with it until you go through it, right?
Well, and the other thing, too, when you're coming up with your value and stuff like that, or what you believe your value is, or what you bring to the table, it's real easy to sit down and look at other shops and see what they say and go, ooh, I kind of like that, and I kind of like that, but they're not yours. Does that make sense?
It does. And that's why I'm struggling, because I thought about just Googling it or asking ChatGPT to do it for me.
Yeah.
But ChatGPT's not yours.
No, yeah. I want it to be right.
It's not that so much right, but it's got to be something that really means something.
Yeah, or otherwise
it's genuine.
It's got to be genuine, right? Because people have great lie detectors, right? We have built-in lie detectors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they can smell shit a mile away. So for when you say, like when someone had come up to me and said, wow, that's really, you're really expensive. Why are you so expensive? My simple answer was, because I'm worth it. What can I do for you?
Yeah.
That was the end of the explanation.
Right.
I don't have, in the beginning when I first went through it, I would spend 15 minutes telling you why I was worth the money. But eventually I got to the point where I was comfortable enough and understood what I did bring to the table that I didn't have to go through all of that. I actually found I got more acceptance because I'm worth it than I did with the 15 minutes of, well, we do this and we do this and we do that and we do this.
Yeah.
It really is you understanding it more than it is anything else.
Yeah.
Because one of the questions I asked, and you watch his face, I want you to watch his face right now. Hey, Lucas, why as a prospective customer would I drive by 3 competitors to do business with you?
Shut up, Rick. Shut up.
That's hard to answer, isn't it? That's
95% of the shop owners that I ask that question to go, I have no idea.
Yeah.
And that is why it's a race to the bottom in our industry today.
And the other 5% will say I'm the best. Okay, why? Right. Like define it. Let's see why. Right. And I don't think and that is the value proposition, but that is also the understanding of yourself. Right. That's the looking deep down inside. And if nothing else, that question incites something else that says, okay, now what? Like what do I want it to be? If I don't know what it is right now, what do I want it to be? Why would they come to me, and how do I achieve that? Right? But we didn't. You see, me and you, when we started this, we didn't ever think about that. Right? What did we think about? Oh, I'll just fix the cars.
right.
No, we were thinking, I got to feed my family.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure.
I got to make money, feed my family.
But the root of that eventually becomes I'm going to fix the car, and we focus so heavily on how do I fix the car.
It's not overly difficult though to answer. I
It's
don't think.
uncomfortable because
No,
we're
I don't-
getting. See what it is, David. I think is we're getting into the limbic part of the brain where it's more feeling stuff,
Right. I'm not.
and it's harder to
Feeling type of
communicate that
person.
than it is when we're up in the neocortex when it's all logic, right? But being able to understand, hey, this is what I truly believe.
Yeah, but you can approach it in a logical fashion
You
because
can.
a lot of times what you need to do is all you have to do is take a step back and go, well, what is it that I do extremely well? In other words, do I believe that I provide a superior product? Yes or no?
I do. Yeah.
But why? So what steps am I taking?
That's the hard part for me to
Well,
answer.
no, you can't. That shouldn't be difficult for you because it should be like, okay, well, one of the reasons why I provide a superior product is because we always follow service information. One of the reasons is we replace every part that's required to be replaced on the repair. That's not true of every shop.
Right.
I know dealerships that are not replacing fuel lines that the OE manufacturer says, hey, the car will catch on fire if you don't replace a fuel line
Right.
because it gets deformed. You take it off, it's deformed. There's no way to put it back on there properly and not have it be off. So you have to replace it. Dealerships aren't doing it, and they're charging $1 bajillion. I'm going to do it every single time. Okay, that's an easy one. You can throw that out there. You can do something like one of the things that I did early on was I went and bought the tool. So I could flash the car. I wasn't spoofing. I wasn't cloning. I wasn't sending it off to some sketchy website to get the module cloned. I was doing it in-house, which required me to get to a certain level of expertise that I could then confidently tell the customer, nobody in this town has a J2534 pass-through. Nobody. I do. That gave me a level of confidence that I could then tell the customer, that's why you should bring it here. I'm doing training that nobody else is doing.
Yeah.
I'm doing
Yeah.
work that nobody's willing to tackle.
And notice, he didn't say we use quality parts and we have really great technicians because every freaking shop in the
Says
world
that.
Everybody says that. Yeah. There's got to be something. And it did. And I'm not saying like now we have a completely different philosophy because everybody now has a 2534 pass-through. Now I'm the only one with an ADAS machine, but I'm surrounded by ADAS calibration centers that just do ADAS calibrations. Sketchy ones, but they still do ADAS calibration. So it's not equipment anymore. Also, that's impossible to keep up with.
No,
So
because
you know.
any differentiator you have eventually is going to get copied.
So now it becomes the easier thing, and the thing that becomes very difficult to copy is a philosophy and a culture in the shop. Those two things, because nobody has my technicians, nobody has my service advisor, they may have the same philosophy, maybe, but they don't have my people. And that my philosophy plus my people cannot be duplicated anywhere else. Therefore, pay me or get the out of my shop. That's it. That's what it progresses to. But what you're starting right now is just figure out what the guy down the street doesn't have. The closest guy to you. Go to his shop, drive by or whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't have as nice of an alignment machine. Maybe he doesn't have a tire machine. Maybe he doesn't have this. Maybe he can't do that. I know he can't diag his way out of a paper bag. Okay, I've got a great diagnostician. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. If you do, great. feature that guy becomes the guy on your website. Yep. I have a great diagnostician. You open up my website, his ugly mug is right in front.
So if you're looking for a diag tech,
yeah, just go look at David's website.
He's a very pretty man. I'm just kidding. Sorry, Brandon. Anyway, but his face is right up front. And it's him tinkering with something electronic on the website. I wanted my customers to convey that we can diagnose absolutely everything. We don't want to, but we can diagnose absolutely everything. But that's not really the philosophy behind what we do. Is a certain thing, and that makes us comfortable charge whatever the hell I want to charge, whatever I need to charge. But what you need to do is take a step back. Just at the beginning, I'm just telling you it's a logical path towards something more concrete. It's just find out what the guy down the street is not comfortable doing that you're willing to do.
Yeah, you start out with that. That's the first way to break out the differentiators. But again, as David said, eventually it becomes more of how am I going to treat you? How are you going to be? What are we going to do for you? How are we going to make it easier for you? Right?
One of the cooler things I've seen somebody do recently is what Mike Allen has shifted to in his shops, because he's had some long-term clients question pricing and say, hey, getting a little expensive.
Are you saying Mike Allen arbitrarily jacks up the price of something that he shouldn't jack the price of because all the way up to this point, it's been a great value. And then he decides, I'm going to jack up the price. And then everybody complains about the price because it got a little expensive. And then he goes, we're probably at the top end of what I can charge. Are you saying Mike Allen does that? That's insane. Why would he do that?
If two people, I had a shop owner in Michigan.
Yeah.
And he says, I got to do some of my brake jobs. And I said, why? And he said, because I'm getting all kinds of complaints.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, how many?
Yeah, I need a number.
I said, how many? He said, 6. I said, in how many months? 6 months.
Jeez.
And I said, in 6 months, how many cars did you fix? Are you really going to run your business
based on 0.25%? Well, so Mike Allen, what he's shifted to is he has got to the point that if somebody has a concern like that, Mike just goes to him and says, listen, I completely understand, but I recognize that we have a skilled trade shortage in this country, and I recognize that we have not been treating our skilled tradesmen the way we should. And so I want to offer them a 401k. I want to offer them health insurance. I want to offer them dental and vision insurance. I want to provide them the very best experience they can, so I'm not part of the problem anymore. And especially in his community, people resonate with that. They're like, I see that, because they can't find people to fix their washing machines.
Bleeding
and they can't.
Hearts out here, that's why.
What?
They're bleeding hearts out here, that's why. Ain't nobody going to give two craps about that in some areas of the country.
Well, that's true.
Okay, that's great. I'm glad the guy has dental. Anyway, I can't afford this repair and I need my car fixed.
You should try it, see what happens.
Oh, and Kansas City, it would 100% work. Kansas City is very much like Raleigh, let me tell you. Don't you worry about that.
What do you think of David's process of not calling the clients at all?
I don't call
Like they don't call him at all.
Listen, dear. Before you say anything, okay, 2023, I'll show you the numbers. My ARO is $20 less than Dingus over here. So it's fine.
Doesn't mean he was calling them well.
Yeah, that's true. hey, that's the second time somebody's thrown shade at my numbers today.
I haven't seen either one of them, so there.
So I will say that I was also very uncomfortable with the selling and because I felt like I'm not pay $1,100 for that. But I also needed to charge $1,100 because that's, once the parts matrix was put in and my labor and it was $1,100. That's what the price spit out. Now, whether it's $1,100, $900, the only difference is an extra $200 in my bank account versus not, right? The customer's going to see it as expensive regardless, okay? It's going to be expensive at $700 versus $1,100. But I was uncomfortable with the selling and the whole spiel, and then I didn't. That's not me. I can't do it. So I just started sending links. That was it.
Yeah.
So I just said him cringing.
So I'm not cringing. I'm not cringing.
At the front counter, we explained the process. We told the customer that we are a no pressure sales process. Like, I want you to be comfortable with the process. We're going to present you an inspection. You look at the inspection, take pictures, we'll answer any questions that you have. And then we're going to send you an estimate because we're going to estimate absolutely everything. Now, you decide what you want to do from there. But we're going to estimate everything just so you know the current condition of the vehicle and what it's going to take to fix absolutely everything. Do you understand? Okay, great. And people just go select all, send, sign, and then I get a $4,000 estimate just approved. I didn't have to call them.
Yeah.
I didn't have to sell dick.
That's awesome.
I had to just boop,
I'm
popped
glad
up.
you don't have to sell that because nobody'd buy it.
They're a very limited quantity too. But anyway, so I will answer that question. If it works for David, I would say fantastic.
Yeah.
It would not be the way I do it.
Yeah.
I believe there needs to be 3 conversations with a client.
Okay.
There needs to be a discovery conversation so that you're on the same page, building value and differentiating yourself.
Agreed.
I think you need to have a presentation with the client so that they can understand where you're building value and a sense of need and urgency in the work that's needed. And the reason why I say that, David, is I have seen people get estimates that they're sent out something like that. And there's a fuel line leaking and a couple other things, and they pick 2 services to do and leave the leaking fuel line.
Yeah, that does happen. That's the same situation as the 6 complaints in 6 months, though. It's rare.
It does happen.
It does happen you have to have a process for that because if that does happen, you have to stop, you have to call and say, hey, I'm glad you approved the $700, but this $400 repair comes first.
It's the wrong $700.
Yeah, it's the wrong $700. And sometimes you have to have that awkward conversation with the customer.
So the issue I have with this is people tend to look at an estimate very quickly. They don't look at the inspection the way you'd like them to. I had one shop say, "Oh, look at everything we put in." And I said, "You're assuming they read it."
Yeah.
Right? And they don't.
Yeah.
So we have to have a way to create a sense of need and urgency in there so that they understand what is important, okay?
Right.
So we can guide them through this process. And then the last time we need to talk to our clients is when we're delivering the vehicle so that we can reinforce what they did, let them know that it was a great
So that
process.
conversation does happen every single time. You have to have that follow-up conversation because they got to leave with the warm and fuzzies. That's incredibly important. But I will say that the first conversation, because you want to present, you want to make sure they understand. The second one, the presentation thing, I send the links because I want that to do the talking for me rather than me like, One, because I know my abilities, and that ain't it. Now, could I do it? Absolutely. I just hate it as opposed to him. He's a yacker. He likes to talk and he's friendly and everybody's his friend and he gets to talking and he's got the stories and the quotes and everybody is like, that's how they get. I can't do that.
Right.
I can't do that.
Has to
You
save
don't
you a
seem
power.
like that either.
No.
No, I'll bet you.
You two
won't
should
like
move
it
to
like it.
Finland.
I actually
anyway.
will email people estimates right from. I have Mitchell and I can just text it to them.
You should probably get Shop-Ware.
I probably should.
Shop-Ware's what
So
you need.
I would, if you're not going to get
product
Shop-Ware,
placement and all.
we're sponsored by Shop-Ware, and that's why that's not why we're saying it though.
No, we're saying it because we love it and it
because
works
we
really
love it,
well.
yes. Now, here's the only thing I will say is the inspection has to be good. And the customer,
great explanations.
pictures.
Not only does it have to have great pictures,
simplistic explanations that
this
they
is
can
what
understand.
it's supposed to do. This is what it's not doing. This is what's going to happen if you don't do anything.
Yeah.
This is what will happen if you change it.
Yeah.
The pictures have to be fairly self-explanatory that the broken part is featured, presented with a big arrow pointing to the broken part.
Yeah.
And all we do is say, that's broke. And then it's not like that.
I can do that I have ProSpec, but the pictures aren't so great on it. But I can circle.
Yeah, so the
stuff and
the
put it
inspection
on,
has to be really good.
Right.
Because if you're not going to get on there and go, well, Mr. Customer, we started looking at this and then this and then this and this and if you're not going to do the spiel, which the spiel is important, you've got to do the spiel, the inspection process then becomes amplified. And it can't be rushed. It's got to be thorough. And you want to make sure that the customer understands what they're looking at and be there to answer questions. Make the customer comfortable with hey, do you have any questions? Okay, I'm going to send your estimate now. Okay, great. The why I like Shop-Ware is because they can just pick it themselves, sign. They have to like now they have to do a text authorization, or are they going to get to
Yeah,
that?
there's different pieces of authorization. I don't know if you've seen that, but it has buttons that they either have to verify who they are.
They're doubling the you're the one approving, nobody else is approving this for you thing, and so they can then sort of decide what they're going to do, and you'd be surprised, because if you do the work up in the front, that they come in, it's nice, it's clean, it's organized. It doesn't have to be Taj Mahal, just nice, clean, and organized. Friendly face.
Yep.
You get a full explanation. You explain the process to them. They leave. They know what's coming up next. You're going to get a text message with a DVI. You don't say DVI. You say digital inspection with lots of pictures.
Evaluation.
Yeah, an evaluation.
Vehicle health report.
Yeah. You call it whatever you're required to in your state. We just call it an inspection in Kansas because we're a free state. Anyway, so then we send it to them, and if they have the text I love back is, where's my estimate? Because I'm like, all right, this is gonna go easy. Bloom, send it over to them because they're ready to spend. They're like, ooh, red, buy. If they have questions, answer the questions, and then send the estimate. And Shop-Ware allows you to. Now with Mitchell, you're just gonna have to call them and say, hey, to fix everything, it's gonna be $28.52.46, and I can have it ready for you within a week. Or 3 days, or whatever your turnaround time is. And then you take parts deposit. Parts deposit. Because then you're not rushing to get the work out. Money's coming in every day. It's wonderful. Money's always coming in.
I love
with
deposits.
the car.
I do too.
Deposits make a huge difference. Because now I'm not kidding. They are committed. Right. They are committed. They have already purchased that repair. They've already paid half. Or 40% of the repair, but they are committed. They've already made the purchase. The fact that they have to pay me another $700 or $800 when they come pick up is irrelevant. They have made that purchase. They are committed. And you get that parts deposit. Okay, and you tell them the turnaround time. Easy peasy, and no selling involved. Because I could feel him like. When you were like, oh, you got to call and talk to the customer and sell and all that stuff.
Are you the service advisor?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to fix that. Either get really good at it and take all his 8,000 courses that he has on selling, or...
And you will get really good at it if you do that.
My 8,000 courses?
8,000 courses on selling. But you have
my one course on
with
selling
8,000 little bits that you have to get out of here making it seem like, oh, this is really in 1 hour I'm going to make you a good service advisor. No, it's going to take a long time, especially if it's doesn't come natural to you. Like, I can understand. Trust me, dude. I can
Lots
understand.
of things don't come natural to David, just so you know.
My biggest problem with it is I'm just too busy. Like, I need help. I need a service advisor.
What are you doing?
Running the business. I'm trying to run the business.
No. Like, what does that mean, running the business? Like, what are you doing?
Paying bills, ordering parts, trying to answer the phone.
I did this little lesson of futility a while back, and I wrote down everything I did in a day.
Yeah.
Washing the toilet.
Yeah, that was in there.
15-minute intervals. We have
every 15 minutes in intervals. You write down what you're doing. You're like, I waste my entire day dicking around with completely irrelevant, useless stuff.
What was I doing watching cat videos?
David.
It may not be cat videos, but you might be surprised that you can find things that will speed up the parts ordering through PartsTech, which is available on on Mitchell. Yeah, that makes it easier. And then you hit the one button to order your parts, and you don't have to sit there and look. And here's the other thing too. Stop looking for parts. You have your flavor. It's vanilla. Just keep selecting vanilla. Just slap it up there. Don't start with like, maybe they want cookies and cream today. Yeah, no, they don't. Slap vanilla on there and move on. Yeah. You don't need to be like fishing for new flavors because you're like, maybe they'll like this today. No, they won't. Slap that same water pump on there. Slap those same brake pads on there every single time. Just let it go. Because trust me, the customer doesn't give two craps what you put on there. Does the car work now? Yes, great. Congratulations, it's fixed.
I do that. I know what parts I'm getting before I go looking.
Now the other thing too is like in Shop-Ware past services.
Yeah.
Boop, boop. Yeah. past services, go down, select, dumped, done. Never have to build that.
Done.
It's like every canned job without making it a canned job.
Oh.
Yeah. It's pretty nice.
Does it update the pricing?
Once it dumps in there, it'll have you like click, and it'll update the pricing to the latest matrix or whatever you happen to be.
Hey, just so you know, what it also puts in there is the notes that were made in labor lines previously. So if you don't remove the note that says that the technician torques the drain plug to specification and drove the vehicle, they might think you're full of shit. Just ask me how I know.
Don't put that in there then. Don't put it on the labor line.
I didn't see it.
Oh.
I never looked at it.
Anyway, so you need to get a virtual assistant on the phone so they pick up, immediately. You're not immediately having to answer the phone. It picks up the phone for you, then starts to ring, and that gives you an extra like 15, 30 seconds to go grab your phone. And then finding somebody to answer the phone for you is probably the easiest thing to find. You
know what I did? I hired a remote CSR to help answer the phone, and I thought it was going to go horribly, and they have done a fantastic job. Now, I will say that it was Monique's daughter that works for Shop-Ware, so like she's had a lot of experience.
You know what she needs to do?
What she
is farm out her services.
That's a good idea
because she can probably handle
way more calls.
But can you imagine her going? This is welcome to. Oh crap! Which number is this? L&N.
I worked in a call center, and you pick up, and it would go beep, and then it would tell you what company you're supposed to go to, and then you went to your script, and then you would go into your thing. So it's not. Yeah, we used to juggle like 11 different companies, and you'd sat there on a phone call all day long.
Could you imagine calling a company and getting David Rowan into the line? What the fuck do you want?
Yeah, I'll send you the estimate.
No, they recorded
text it to you.
They monitored your phone calls, and they required you to like hit, because the client would pay for conversions. And so they were trying to get you to sign up for whatever. And so you would have to go through the script. And if you weren't hitting the points on the script, they would pull you into the office and they're like, let's talk about what happened here. And but you would get bonused. If you hit like 100% or whatever, they would end up hitting you with bonuses. Extra money and days off, which I loved.
So I vote we do a follow-up episode at some point. Where are you going to be in a year?
Probably be here.
Okay.
I'll probably come back here.
But where's the shop going to be in a year?
You'll have a service advisor. His prices will be 50% higher than what they are right now with a healthy parts matrix. You'll have the 300% rule put in, a DVI, Shop-Ware. A good online...
He's kidding.
I'm not kidding. That's what it'll be. And on good online scheduling system. So like some of those phone calls will get shifted onto just ordering online. A beautiful website by Shop Marketing Pros.
Sounds like a plan to me. Now we've just got to hold you accountable.
All of that you can do tomorrow. You know that, right? Tomorrow you could do all that.
Yeah, some of it I'm already in. Like the phones, or whatever day it was before I flew out here, I did switch phone companies, and I'm getting phones that'll have, you'll be able to pick one to talk to me and two to talk.
Yeah, to get rid of some of the flack. Right. What phone company did you go with?
It's Windstream.
Okay.
A local company
Kinetic or whatever. Yeah.
Have you seen Digital Concierge? Holy cow. So cool.
I got into it with the shop controller guy because they're pushing their like AI.
They were so nice
AI,
to me.
yeah.
Their AI thing, and I'm like, they're like, why don't you get on the AI thing? And I'm like, look, every time I've ever used an AI chatbot, anything, I want to kill it. I want to destroy. I want to burn it to the ground.
But you say the same thing about me.
It's not the same thing.
Rick's AI now.
Oh, we've got a Rick AI?
Yeah,
we do.
Yep.
Oh,
That's really
that's creepy.
The other day, I needed to email a customer, and I really didn't. I just asked Rick AI and copy and pasted it in my email.
That is hilarious.
And it worked.
Rick
it worked.
AI, that is awesome.
Rick 2.0.
So, hey, as long as it's not Shop Monkey 2.0, I think you'll be okay.
No.
That's awesome.
Or Butt Monkey if you've watched Bruce Almighty.
Yeah, there you go. So Digital Concierge reviews your telephone calls, and it like tracks them. And so it gives you the sentiment and everything else like Shop Genie. but it like tracks the call to see, did you convert it from a call to an appointment, and did it convert from an appointment to an actual repair order in the shop? And then it transcribes all of your calls. So you're not saving like recorded calls necessarily. It'll save them as long as you want to save the recorded calls, but it transcribes them and it gives you the sentiment, and it says, hey, here's where the call went sideways. Here's what happened. Here's like what went.
Wow.
It's really neat. But now I was talking to him and he said like, hey, don't talk about it on the show. I don't really want it to like, he's like, what his thing was, he said, there's 4 other phone companies that do similar things to us. Mm-hmm. And he said, I am learning from their lessons. And I said, what's that? He said, they grew too damn fast. And they grew so fast that they couldn't provide the product and the quality that they should provide. And he said, so they didn't have support behind it. Mm-hmm. And he said, I don't want that to happen. He said, I'd rather go slow and grow, and as we get more ability to.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
All right.